Agora community, welcome to yet another conversation with long time no see. I saw everyone all of one night ago, so welcome back to the conversation. We, as promised, have a great conversation for you in store for you today, and I'm going to mix things up a little bit. We're crazy like that. We're going to bring in David right away, and he's going to do the intro tonight because it's not fair. I get to hog it all the time. Here comes David. Hello.
Yeah, let's share the workload a little bit.
That's it. Yeah, I mean it's only fair, right? I mean, geez.
We're all about fairness. Yeah, that's going to be pretty. It's pretty exciting tonight. We have a guest that I had the opportunity to get to know in the last few months, as he's been helping us at Agora Studio with some supervision and helping as a creative consultant as well for what we have cooking in the lab. So that's been pretty exciting. Dave Mullins has been what I call personally the first wave of digital artists starting in the early 90s, worked at Digital Domain, Disney, Sony, and eventually joined Pixar, where he stayed for 20 years. I have a little short list of some of the projects that he worked on. Monster Incorporated, Finding Nemo, The Incredible, One Man Band, Cars, Ratatouille, Up, on which he was the animation director, Cars 2, Brave, Inside Out, The Good Dinosaur, Cars 3, Coco, Lou, for which he was the writer and director, and also got a nomination at the Academy Award, and Incredibles 2 as animation supervisor, just to name a few. At which point he decided to leave Pixar after 20 years, explore, new horizon, developing his own project. That was leaving the comfort of Pixar right before the pandemic. So I'm sure that was a great timing for him.
Bit of a coincidence, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I know there might be something there.
I'm just saying.
And yeah, now developing his own project, and that's some of the stuff that we're going to discuss this evening. So that's it's pretty cool. I've had the chance to chat with Dave a few times, and it was always super insightful and entertaining. So let's do this.
I had the luxury of going to one of the Agora town hall meetings, and he was doing a bit of a kind of a retrospective on many little moments of his life and his career, and it was very entertaining. So I'm very excited to see what he's got in store for us tonight. Let me bring him in, Mr. Mullins.
Hello.
Hi there.
Man, that's quite a list. You made me feel very old as you were listing all that stuff.
Yeah,
Wow.
we were talking about you.
God, Lord, that guy.
I'm pretty sure going through the list, you had like mental pictures of where you were at each stage, and be like, oh my God, this is like a fast forward of 20 years. Yeah. But that's quite a resume. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. Yeah, as you're mentioning it, you're just going through and you just like, it's like a nightmare flashing in front of you each single time. Like, oh God, that was hard. Oh God, that was harder. Oh man, that was brutal.
But it's funny. We often say that, the more you struggle on a production, and when you struggle with others, the stronger the bonds are created with the team. Yep. Is that something that you found to be true, that, after the struggle, you get out of it, and maybe there's a little bit of nostalgic or romanticize a little bit the past?
Yeah, I mean, it's like, look, we've all worked for like, you've had a bad supervisor or director or boss or whatever. And, people tend to bond under that. I had, it's funny, like early on I had my share, like before I got really to Pixar, there was my share of like working in, animation, computer animation in the 90s. And everybody was finding their footing. Nobody really knew what they were doing. It was just so new. Like there was a new achievement, like every film, every show that came out. And, there's times where you just worked with people that didn't know what they're doing, or just were not generally great people. They talked their way into those roles. And yeah, it's hard when you're there. And then once you get into, I just have to give some love to Agora, because the community I've seen that you guys have built so far has been a really great place to be. And being outside of Pixar for like a year and finding a community like this, I really love it. Like everybody that I've met, like the talent level is really high. People are really hard workers, very talented, and it's just been like the thing that you've built here, David, has been really amazing, and it feels like home. It's like there was sort of like early Pixar days, and that had a certain vibe, and then there was the later Pixar days. Angus MacLean called it the golden years, and then we went into like the bronze years, or silver years, years of bronze years. Then we got to the copper age.
Oh, geez.
Right? And then we went into like the iron age, and then went into full on like crusades, basically.
Yeah. Thank you. We very much feel that we're still in our infancy of what we're doing here, but it's reassuring to have some feedback that we might be going in the right direction. So that's
I think so.
Yeah, that's definitely appreciated. I'm just curious, because we briefly mentioned it. If we go way back in the past, in the early 90s when you started, what do you remember about being a CGI character animator, or however we would call it in those days? Both on a creative and technical side. What do you remember from this very early era of CG animation?
Yeah, oh, by the way, it should be a disclaimer. I swear a lot, so
okay, it's all good.
If you have a hard time with the word fuck, maybe this isn't the one for you.
It's okay. There is plenty of channel on Twitch that they can go on if that's a problem.
Thunder in Paradise. Oh my God, yeah. A to the J. That was my first show. No, it's funny. Like when I'm going to just go back a little bit before then. I want to spend a ton of time talking about it, but like in the 80s, like I was a teenager in the 80s, like a kid in the 80s, and like, it was like Blade Runner was coming out, Star Wars was coming out, we had Raiders of the Lost Ark, Tron, all the great Schwarzenegger films, Terminator, like ILM was really like getting off the ground. War Games came out with Matthew Broderick, and you want to play a game. And like I remember seeing that film, War Games, like I begged my parents to get a TSR-80 color computer so I just wanted a computer to do stuff, because I was always like drawing, but I also liked coding, which was weird. So I came home from like War Games, and then I did like an 8-bit map, like in code, of the United States, and doing like little missiles going across. So that was like kind of my like I was trying to do I was trying to do the missiles, but I couldn't quite get it to work because I didn't know how to do animation yet.
And ever since, Dave has been on the watch list with the government. Ever since.
Right. Homeland Security's after me. But and then like the next thing I did, I was reading, I don't know if you guys know the Terry Brooks books, like Stone of Shannara.
Short of Shannara, yeah, of course. Amazing.
And I was so taken with that, Tolkien, all things fantasy, sci-fi. I did I think my dad had gotten an IBM PC, and you could actually do pretty decent 8-bit animation on that. I did like the sword going across the screen and like spelling out the swords of Shannara, like all in like the script and stuff. It took me weeks to do, but that was like the first computer animation that I ever did. I didn't even know what I was doing. Like, I didn't even know that was a thing. It was just this thing that I was drawn to because I love computers and video games and stuff like that. And then, so when it came, I graduated high school in '89. I'm old. But I just knew I wanted to do something with art. I didn't even my parents were like, you're gonna be a doctor or a lawyer. I'm like, no, I'm gonna be an artist. Fuck you. I was like a punk rocker at a fucking artist, nothing. I'll fucking leave, right? And so my mom talked my dad into letting me go to art school. I barely got accepted to Rhode Island School of Design. And while I was there, I was studying painting, so I was a painting major. But Brown University was right next door, and so they had I don't know if you know Andy Van Dam, who actually wrote the book Computer Animation, Computer Graphics. He wrote the book on computer graphics. He had a course there in Object-Oriented Pascal. And while I was painting, I was taking these side courses at Brown University to learn Object-Oriented Pascal. And it's just weird, these two things kept on being present in my life, these things that I liked. And then my roommate runs into our room. I think it was our sophomore or junior year or something like that. He's like, oh my God, they got a RISC 6000 down at the computing center. I'm like, what? I'm like, yeah. He's like, they made the Abyss with it. I'm like, what? Holy shit. I ran all the way down to the computing center. Where is it? Where is it? And Hari Nair was the head of the computing center. And I was like, you have to show me it. You have to show me the thing. And he's like, all right. And he gets out in the drawer, and he goes down, and he pulls out this key, and he goes over to a broom closet, opens up this broom closet, and in the dark, there's this refrigerator sitting in there with a monitor on top of it. It's like, this is the RISC 6000. And so he goes over, this thing starts up. It's hot as fuck in there. And it's 5 minutes to get the thing to boot and get Alias 1.0 up. And he's like, okay. I was like, can you show me what it does? Show me the thing. And so he brings up the perspective view in Alias, which is the precursor to Maya. And he brings up a wireframe sphere. And I was already like, what the fuck? What is that? What is that? And then he hit quick render. They did the Tron render, zig, 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 zig. It just flat shading. And I just went, oh. And I to this day, I remember it felt like my brain blew out the back of my head. And I was like, I'm doing this for the rest of my life. This is the most amazing thing. I was freaking out. And from that day forward, that's it. I was going to make computer animated films. And
Did you ever knew at this point that you could be paid to do 3D? Or it was not even in your radar. You just, I'm going to find a way.
Well, it was funny. I actually talked IBM and Alias into paying me for. We had these winter session courses between each semester. They paid me just to make my own films on the RISC 6000, and I don't know how I got them to pay me, but I got them to pay me. And then my junior year, Hari Nair, who was the computer science guy, he's like, oh, I've got a job. We got a job. You want to do some computer animation? I was like, yeah. And so we went out to Newport, Rhode Island, at Pike Productions. And these guys did movie trailers let's all go to the movie. Hey, let's get some soda. Hey, get some popcorn. That stuff. And so I got hired for this job. Now, Hari, this is the first interaction with the producer. Hari took half the salary and never showed up. He just got me the job and took half my paycheck. So I was like, oh, that's a producer. and then I had to do this thing with a film strip doing this thing, and I was using clusters, and we couldn't render it. We couldn't even watch it. We had to copy it onto a DAT tape and then send it to Chicago because there's this guy that
DAT tapes
was able to render it and then put it back on a DAT tape, and we put it on and we go through, and it came back and it was awful. It didn't render right. We didn't get the job, but that was my first CG job. And it's giving half of my salary to Hari Nair, who took.
By the way, to translate this carbon dated conversation, a DAT tape were like these little, almost miniature little audio cassettes that were they were like weird, but they were thick, almost like a VHS tape. They were like the standard. Yeah, exactly. They were. I got a few kicking around here somewhere.
Brent, now you have to explain what is a VHS and a tape.
Oh yeah, it's just used a bunch of
Remind
other
me,
old
the
tech to
VHS tape
describe.
was a form of video format.
Oh my God, that was like, let's send it to the render farm, and it's going to come back by the mail like 2 weeks from now.
Yeah.
So where and how did you even learn to animate characters?
I taught myself. I mean, I could show you guys my student film. It's fucking awful. So I was able to make a desert with like a desert pattern on it and a moon. And then there was a coat hanger that was walking through the desert, and then a snake with a smiley face went through, and then it just stops, and then the coat hanger looks around, and it's like, that's what I was able to do. I was able to extrude. That was my extent of my knowledge. And I was literally with the manual just trying to figure out this whole thing because nobody knew what it was. So I taught myself, and so I taught the illustrator. What was his name? David McCauley, who does The Way Things Work. He was a head of our illustration department. I talked him into letting me do my own project, and so I showed him my film at the end of that, and he looked at it and he goes, "I don't know, was this hard?" I was like, "Yeah." I mean, like, I have no idea what I'm doing. He's like, "A B, I guess." Like, and that was like my final grade for school. Was just like, I don't know what this is. I don't. Like, nobody knew what it was. It was just, nobody was doing it, you know? Like, all the people that got started early, I mean, Brent, you know this, it's like, it just like, it was like the Wild West. Like,
oh yeah,
suddenly, like, oh my God, like,
oh yeah,
ILM wrote M Sticky, and now they, you know, they can take the silver guy through the bars, and it sticks behind like a fucking, like all the metals like forming together. It was like magic. It was like magic.
Yeah, it was. And it was the gold rush, because if you had the appetite for technology, but also happened to be creative, you would be sucked into that volcano so quick. It was crazy.
Yeah, but it was hard. I mean, like, I was applying to Pixar. I think I graduated in '93, and then I started applying to Pixar in '93, and they didn't accept me until 2000. Like, it was. I think I was animating on Stuart Little in '99, and I got a call from Jenny Head, who was the head of the animation department. And she was like, "Hi, we'd like to offer you a job on to interview, or we'd like to offer you to interview for Bugs Life, our new movie that we're making." I was like, "Oh God, like, I have to do it. I have to do it." And I remember just like tearing up and going, I'm on Stuart Little, and I signed a contract, and I can't do it. I can't. It's like, I won't break a contract. You know, I'm just like that. And then at the end of the conversation, I'm like, "Fuck it, I'll do it." She's like, no, it's okay. We'll call you back later. And I hung up. I was like, everybody around me at Sony were just like, "Fucking guy."
Dave's crying at Grand.
Like nose crying, like it's
oh man.
So getting there, something that we've often spoke about with other guests is the imposter syndrome that we all have to deal with. How much on a scale of 10 was your imposter syndrome when you got to Pixar?
Oh yeah, well, when I got to Pixar, well, for me it's a little different. I was a cocky little fucker, as I'm sure many of the people who knew me in the '90s would say. I've grown up a lot since then. So the thing that was interesting was I thought I knew a lot more than I did, and because, you know, when I've taught myself, I've gotten these jobs at Digital Domain. I worked at Disney feature animation and Dream Quest Image, like all this stuff. You know, you like, it's always like, I can do it better. I know how to do it better, right? And, you know, Pixar was always the place I was watching, because it wasn't just about like the effects or like, oh, they did a cool creature, or like they were actually telling stories. And that was like, I was like such a head scratcher. I'm like, what magic is that? Like, how do you tell a story? And I get excited and I cry and, you know, all this stuff. And they hadn't even done a film yet. They were just doing those Lifesavers commercials and and the Listerine commercials. So when I got there, and then the other thing let me preface it with this. I never lived in an area anywhere longer than about a year my entire life. So I was always moving. So the thing that comes along with that is no consequences for your behavior. And so I get to Pixar in 2000 and I immediately am like, oh my fucking God. First of all, these guys are doing it all wrong. Like, literally,
of course they are.
I got in a fight in my interview for Pixar. They almost didn't hire me because, one, they said that because I animated like a 2D animator because I learned at Disney. You know, Tony Bacillian, guys like that taught me. You know, I did pose to pose, then I broke down and I animated on ones, no curves. And because I worked that way, and Steve Hunter worked that way, who just did the short film Out, who's one of my best friends, he was rocking the boat so hard because we had come up under like Eamon Butler and some guys at Disney. So we animated in this very Disney way, and he was just rocking the boat at Pixar, and they were not happy with him. And so they knew I animated like that, and so they
you got enlisted.
What's that?
You got enlisted in their little coup.
Yeah, well, and I didn't find out till years later. There's this huge debate of whether they were going to allow people with different animation styles to work at Pixar. Because there's traditionalists who just layered, and that was the way you animate, and that's only good animation. Where there's this other way. And so I go into the interview, and it's like, I think it was 4 groups of 4 people, and they were just running me over the coals. Like Jeannie Santos is like, so I hear you're friends with Steve Hunter, huh? I'm like, yeah. So what if I told you Steve Hunter was a shitty animator? I was like, that's you're a fucking asshole because he's a great animator. Like in my interview. And the next interview, it's like, do I name names? So there was a senior animator there at the time who's no longer there, and he was like, the way you animate is stupid. Are you going to change your ways when you get here? I was like, I don't see why. My animation works great. And like in the lunch interview, I got in a fight with him. He's like, the way you work is fucking stupid. I'm like, it's not fucking stupid. You do this, it's about pose, it's about history, fucking, illusion of life, fucking Walt, like, going to like, I walked out and I'm like, I'm not getting hired. That was I couldn't control myself. And they hired me. And then I got there, and what's Presto now is Mindy. Like you couldn't click on the character. You couldn't click on the character and then move it, right? You had to go to the object list, click down the hierarchy, find the toe, go over to the MDT, which was just a spreadsheet. Find the toe FB, click on the frame, and then look up at your character and go mouse over it, and it would go dink.
Oh, too much.
Dink. And it's like. I'm like, this is fucking stupid. So like, I was screaming about that, and like, Glenn McQueen at the time, he was just like, just shut the fuck up, kid. We know, shut the fuck up. Like he was just like angry at me, and they almost fired me. But then Brad Bird came on to do The Incredibles, and basically what Brad did is he made the aisle of misfit toys. He took all the people that were the fucking problem kids, Alan Barolero, Steve Hunter, Rick Sayer, like all these guys that were just like on the fringe of Pixar, like just bubbling and angry. And he brought us all together, and we made The Incredibles together. And with that, I got, I don't know if you can see over there, all those things on my wall. I got a bunch of patents for like foot roll and like, directing all this other stuff. And we like, there was a real big divide at Pixar at the time of how we were going to do things. And to John's credit, he brought in Brad because he knew, and to Steve Jobs' credit, they brought in Brad because they knew they needed to. Yes, we've got some success right now, but we need to mix it up, and we need to keep pushing forward. And Brad Bird's going to be the guy to do it. And so we were lucky in that Brad pulled us on and made us not such outcast toys anymore. And after The Incredibles, we actually kind of had a voice because the first realistic caricatured the first caricatured humans that we did, and it was a really fucking hard show. But man, you talk about pressure under fire and like bonding with people. I mean, these are still to this day are some of my best friends. Yeah.
So, Dave, I'm curious because in between this infamous interview that ended up working for you and the moment that Pixar decided that you were going to be the adult in the room as the head of animation on up, there's literally only 5-6 years in between those two moments. So what did Dave Mullins did to kind of be qualifiable of being the adult in the room?
And quickly, just for fun, just because it came up in chat, I just wanted to make mention of it. I find it funny that everyone in chat is now very nervous that they owe you a lot of money for all the foot rolling they've done. they're all like, oh shit.
Which one is it?
My back on foot roll.
There you go. Okay. Well, we all owe Dave a lot of money. Is there? Can we just interact you the money or something? Like, how much do I owe you?
Well, okay. Let's sidebar just for a second. So the whole point, like, of course, I didn't fucking invent foot roll. I mean, I've been doing nested hierarchies for years before that. It's just something that was into the industry. But what Pixar, DreamWorks, all these places were doing, which was really smart, is gobbling up all these things that we're doing in the industry and putting a patent on them. Because what happens is that the reason why Pixar has all these patents is because they're like, if we ever use something and somebody else has the patent on that, then we can go, oh yeah, well we've got these 20 things. Yeah. It's like this like mutually assured destruction policy. I got like all these stupid, like I got Squetch. Like I actually came up with the name Squetch, which was like squash and stretch control. This control.
Squetch, I like that.
Oh, it's really that's such a great control. But it was like it was like sort of mutually assured destruction. But
sorry
no,
for the sidebar. I just thought it was funny.
Somebody else smarter than me did. I had a patent on it.
Sorry, Dave. I derailed. You had a question that was good. I can't remember what it was though.
Yeah, in between that, this interview and the moment that this decided you to give you the key and be the adult in the room, what personal improvement did you do, and how did this happen?
Well, it kind of goes back to your earlier question about, did you have imposter syndrome? And, the problem with me at that age, I think I was 27 by the time I got to Pixar. I didn't know what I didn't know. And when I walked into, there's all sorts of technical stuff with the code and, I had my methodology for animating, whatever. But the bigger thing was when I walked into that place and I saw people were performing and thinking about character and thinking about acting and the mature kind of also super entertaining and fun conversations about comedy. Like when I went into dailies and I started to see those conversations, I immediately realized how fucking out of my league I was. So like that was like going in, I thought I was like kind of awesome. And then you get around people that are really good and you're like, oh, this is why this is the place. I get it now. And that's why I stayed there for 20 years, because honestly, I was just surrounded by those people I was learning from every day. So to get from that guy I got so many fucking stories that I did. I'll tell you about the time I broke the pool, maybe. Of course. They got the hole in the wall. Anyways, to get from that guy to like they're going to bring me on as a directing animator. That was actually, I think, 2007. I got that promotion, so I was there for 7 years. And even at Pixar, when you're there for like the first 3 years, you just feel like you don't know how to fit in yet. It just takes a while to fit in because there's just kind of a flow to it. Everybody says that. But every show that I was on, my decisions and sort of my behavior followed me. And for the first time in my life, I was around people that were going to start holding me accountable. And it's really at Pixar that these people that were amazing in those first 10 years, especially because they helped me become an adult. They helped me think like an adult, to treat people well and not think selfishly, and to think about the team and the group and everybody. And so, I very much wanted to lead. I've always wanted to be in that position, and I enjoy it, as stressful as it is. But it was very hard to get into that lead position. And when Scott Clark finally offered, well, so here's how it happened up. Bunch of us were on the show in pre-production. I was doing Carl and a little, I think I was working on Russell too. And as we were on the show, there's a bunch of us vying, we're trying to prove ourselves to vie for the directing animator position. And when Scott Clark and Jim Murphy came to me, I'm like, oh, this is it. It's finally gonna happen. It's super annoying. Like, I want to be a lead. Like, shut the fuck up. Nobody wants to, be more like Maximus. Like, please Caesar, no, it can't be me. That's why it must be you. They want that from you. You don't want it. Then we'll give it to you. It's like, anyway, so they come to me and then they're like, we have a very special assignment for you. I'm like,
it's happening.
Look at me, special. And they're like, we want you to document our pre-production process. And I went, okay, I remember having the conversation in my head, like, don't say no, don't be an asshole, just hear them out. It's your boss, hear them out. And so I was like, okay, what do you mean? They're like, you're really good at pre-production, you're really good at working with models and getting characters to look great, working with character department. We need you to somehow document that process so that we're not constantly doing these same drawings over and over again. We need some sort of history of how we do things. And I went, oh fuck. I'm like, sounds great. That's awesome. Like, that's the first time I'm like, awesome, let's do this. And so I got a patent for that too, the rig one. I designed this whole thing that we actually take the whole hierarchy of our characters into a web page. I worked with Rita Garcia and some other folks on it. And then we document, like, this is how our mouth FB works. This is how we like to do volume preservation. These are the kind of controls. This is how we, like, on the ILRs or IUDs, we're going to actually fire in some eyelid LR when the eyes go back and forth. So it just gives it a little bit of movement. It's just this brutal fucking 5,000 AVARs, animation variables that you're documenting. And so I got a team, we got together, I built the whole thing. We had it was a first pass of it while I was doing all this pre-production on Up. And because I did that and I did that job so well, and I showed that I could lead a team, I could work with people and kind of motivate them on something that's not that fun. It's like eating vegetables. It's not really great, but you have to do it. I mean, I like vegetables, but then they said, okay, we're going to give you a chance, but dude, chill the fuck out. Because I was in a pain. I know I was a pain. I'm still a pain. But that was kind of the thing. And it was because I had people that saw that I loved the films first. I loved the art. It wasn't about me. It was about the films. And they helped me kind of develop as a person. And this is where I formed my strongest friends, because I was actually with people for an extended amount of time. And I learned that, like, what you put forward into your community, artistically or with friends or whatever, that's how you have to be a friend. You have to be a friend to have a friend. You have to help somebody to have them help you. And like, you learn that and you kind of grow up. Some people are just born with that, or they have that naturally. That's something I had to learn. So I was very lucky that the people at Pixar taught me that.
I feel like you just described the plot of Lou right there. That's interesting.
Yeah, a little bit. A little bit.
Look at that.
A little guardian help. Well, yeah. So that's another story.
Well, let's go there. Let's fast forward another 10 years, or whatever time it took. How much from your past did you? Because you were the writer and director of Lou. So how much from your past and your own experience? Basically, what was the inspiration for the story and the character and story development on your side?
Well, it's funny because, like, okay, so I got directing animator on Up in 2007, but I started drawing. I had my son, and my son was born in 2003. My daughter was born in 2005, and I started coming up with this idea for the short. I'm actually developing into a series right now that I started just drawing on the weekends. I think I took like like a 2-week vacation, and my wife let me I would take the baby during the day, and then I would work all night. No, she would take the baby during the day, and then I would work all night, but I'd have the kids there so she could sleep. And like we were doing this like tit for tat trade for like who could take care of the kids, because our kids are crazy, nuts. And anyways, I started working on this short called Naughty. Is about this family of beavers, and these little beavers kids like are destroying their house, and the parents are trying to figure out like how to harness these kids, and figures out he can use them as like power tools. It's really fun. It's cute. Anyway, so I pitched that. I worked on that. I actually got it edited, and I got very close to them making it. Like we got all the way through the development process. It was me, Angus McLean, I think Scott Morris had a short in there, and Teddy Newton. We all had shorts, and they're like, oh, they're gonna pick the shorts here, and one of the one or two of these are gonna get made. We're pretty sure yours is one of them. I was like, oh my god, this is amazing. 2005. Steve sold us to Disney. Everything changed, and like John's like, we're reimagining everything. We're reimagining the shorts program, and so all of our stuff, just all four of us, would just go pushed aside. I mean, Angus is directing a feature there now, and so I just like Pete Docter really liked the short, so he kept going back to me. He's like, dude, you should just freshen it up and pitch it again. Like let's work on the story. And so every year I was trying to get this thing to work until I think it was like 2012, or I had pitched a bunch of different stuff, and then finally in 2012 or 2011 I like pitched the last time I pitched beavers, which was like 7 years of like we're fucking done with the beaver thing. I pitched this like pirate and mermaid idea, and then I pitched this idea about this playground guardian lost and found box thing, and John was like, that one's really interesting, but I want you to make a couple simple changes on it. Like initially Lou was this kid, he had been stealing everything, and he'd just become a monster of toys. He was going around and stealing stuff, and this little girl showed him that like, oh, it's better to give than to steal. And as he gives everything away, there's a little kid underneath, and it kind of reveals this kid. It was very sweet. And the first comment John had was like, I hate the kid. I hate it. I was like, okay. He's like, and as a really good executive producer does, and he's very good, all the other stuff aside, just talking about his talent as a filmmaker, very, very smart filmmaker, very, very, very talented. He said, get rid of the little kid and make it just the lost and found box. I went, oh, that's fucking good. So I went back, I rewrote it. I think I pitched it in 3 or 4 weeks later. And it's pretty much the story that it was that you saw today. Just kid, this bully going around, he's stealing stuff from kids. Lou comes out, tries to get it back from him. There's a big fight. In the end, he pulls out the kid's lost toy, and it turns the kid's heart, and he gives everything back. So the two things that John added a lot to it, but the two things was make it a lost and found box is the creature. And when he gives him away, make him give himself away. And those two ideas are like brilliant. It's like what makes the short. And so being a fledgling sort of director and writer, having somebody like that can help your story, not like try and make their version of your story, but help you make your story, was massive. It was huge.
Yeah.
So I have a lot of, I owe John a lot.
Yeah. And after directing it, was it what you expected?
No, it was fucking awful. It was so bad.
Well, you were the director. You got to make all the decisions, right? Everyone listened to everything you said.
Yeah.
No? What?
Well, I had 2 executive producers. I had Jonathan P. Lassiter, and I had Peter Hans Doctor. So Pete Docter and John Lassiter were my 2 executive producers, and they had very different ideas of what the short should be. Luckily, my idea kind of aligned with John, but there was kind of this battle over what my film should be, and I ended up they shut me down twice. Like there was a moment where like my dad had been battling cancer for like 8 years. He passed away, so I went to be with him and help my mom and do all this stuff. And then when the week I got back, the day I got back, Pete Docter's in my office, and he says, I don't think we're gonna make your short. I'm gonna do it my way. And I went, And it's another one of those moments like when the Rigway thing back there was like, don't fucking freak out, don't fucking freak out, don't fucking punch him, don't freak out. I went, okay, what would you like to do? It's like you have this like rapid fire conversation in your head about what are you gonna fucking do? Yeah. And so I went, okay, that's what my motto on the show was, I don't care what I have to do, I just have to get the film made. And I was making a lot of mistakes. I was, there's so many things that I didn't know, but you're just put into such a fucking meat grinder over the story process. And then to have two executive producers, they're telling you to make two different stories. I made the two stories at once. So I boarded and wrote and boarded this version of it. I wrote and boarded with story artists that were great that I worked with, and thank God for them. And I wrote and boarded this other version, which was Pete's version. And then we showed, after about like 6 or 8 weeks, whatever it was, we showed both versions to John. And John ate Pete's lunch. He's like, what the fuck? Like literally in the screening room with all these people, I'm standing between the two of them sweating like, oh my God. Oh my God. And Pete's like, no, it's like good luck, it's like bad luck Blackie. Because what Pete wanted Lou to steal. He wanted the first version of the story that John didn't like, which was, Lou steals everything and then the kid teaches him how to give it back. John hated that from the very first beginning, so I knew this wasn't. John never changes his mind, never. It just, if he doesn't like something, he's never gonna fucking change his mind. I just know the guy. He's got really good instincts. Anyways, so we made that version. He's like, it's like bad luck Blackie. He's like this bad guy, and then he's really fun because he's a bad guy. And John's like, the fucking dog gets punished at the end every time he coughs. The fucking house falls on him, and the fucking boat falls on him. He's like tearing apart. He's like, it's a fucking revenge story. This isn't a revenge story. And I'm going, oh fuck, yelling like this.
Two titans.
And so finally, I just take the film to Jim Morris, who's the head of the studio. I go, Jim, you just look at the two versions of the film. I really want to just make my version, which I made like a year and a half ago, but there's this other thing. Mom and Dad are fighting. This is so fucking awesome. I'm gonna get, it's gonna die in beer would be awful, but my brother's not here and it sucks. And this isn't heaven. This is hell. And so he looked at them both. He's like, yeah, just do the one you like. Motherfucker. And then there's more awful stories about other really high profile directors that came in and like battered me, like awful. But it teaches you to be kind of resilient because my gut on the thing was the story that I made. And I just had people coming at me, a lot of people with really good intentions trying to help you on your film, but they're just coming at you fucking on, dude, did you even think about this? Did you even think about it? Because in India, when somebody takes a toy, I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? How do you think about that? Like, leave me alone. I'm just trying to make my movie. People with really good intentions are going to come in, and as a director, you got all these voices in your head. And this is why I think directors end up being dicks to people, is because they're just like, shut the fuck up. I'm just trying to get my thing on screen.
Yeah.
And so to a certain extent, I understand that. I'll never be that type of person, but I understand that. At a certain point, you have to quiet the voices a little bit. But I like to collaborate. And I think it just taught me, just getting pummeled like that just taught me so much about filmmaking and what's important. Its character is important. Like, if somebody's watching it and you've shown it to 3 people and they're all pinging on the same thing, you can try and talk yourself into no, it's actually really good. It's not. It's just not. You have to listen to people's responses. So
would you say that having a taste of going through the process, developing the character, the story, and all that was kind of a beginning of thinking of eventually maybe leaving the comfortableness of Pixar and developing your own project?
Yeah. I'm just gonna just to talk about writing and directing and how learning that. It was funny because there's a lot of people they would pitch and get their fucking shorts made and boom, they're off and running off to the races. Really good people. I'm like, I wish I could be that person. I'm not. But I had Max Brace, who was the head of story on Finding Dory. When he heard that I got the green light people probably heard some of these stories already, but here they got the green, like I was like walking by his office in the story department. He's like, Dave! I'm like, what? Yo, what? He's like, dude, how'd you do it? How'd you do it? I'm like, what do you mean? How'd I do it? He's like, you kept pitching and they kept saying no, and you kept pitching and you kept saying no. I was like, I pitched once, I had 3 ideas, they were awesome. They said no. I was like, fuck you guys, I'm out. He's like, how did you do it? And I was like, well, I never went to film school. I figure I'm learning from the best people in the world to teach me about film. And the truth of it, what it really boiled down to is when I wasn't boarding and writing, that's when I felt miserable. I would rather try and fail and be like, no, this doesn't work, and this is why, and you need to figure this out and like figure out the story than not try. Because when I wasn't trying, that's when I got depressed. So anyway, that was my film. So fast forward, I have all these, like after Lou, I'm like, I got all these fucking film ideas. I want to pitch them. And they're like, no, that's okay. No pitching. I was like,
no more pitching.
I'm like, but I got these really cool no, you're good. Like maybe you could direct in like 10 years, but no, you're good. And like, there's a lot more to that story that I'm not going to get into.
Yeah. But I mean, you were, with the confidence that and a little bit of the cockiness that was still maybe a little bit there, you were well aware that it was a pretty good short film that you've been able to pull off.
I really liked it. The people that worked on it liked it. And I mean, getting the nomination kind of really solidifies that it's actually worthy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what would you say would be was the final motivation of try to develop your own project?
Well,
after all this time.
And I was developing, I was writing, I was working on writing screenwriting and scripts. Like I was teaching myself all that stuff, like reading every, Robert McKee and every fucking book I can get my hands on, talking to writers. That's my dog. I just knew that, I want to make cool sci-fi shit. I want to make cool fantasy stuff. I'm a dungeon master. I play D&D all the time. Like this is the stuff I want to make. So I just, I watch so much stuff and I just go, there's the things that I want to see that I'm not seeing. So I want to make them. So that's, I think I knew like back in after college, like after doing those first few films like that. Yeah. Nice crit. After making the first 2 films, I wanted to make a film, but I had no idea how to do it until I went through that process at Pixar. Well, I got tons of cool D&D ideas. I got series ideas. Fuck, man, this shit's so cool. I'm telling you.
Time to sit down and develop a Terry Brooks series, obviously.
What's that?
I said it's obviously time to develop a Terry Brooks series, animated series. I mean, come on.
They did it. Oh, they did it on Sci-Fi.
They did? How did I not know about this?
He was
apparently it didn't go over very well by the look of dismay on your face.
There's so much stuff we can do with D&D. I mean, there's so many fucking stories out there. I mean, from Greyhawk to like Waterdeep to the Mad Mage to like fucking Lolf. I mean, there's just so many. Like, who doesn't want to see fucking Dritz Jordan film? Like, we have to see that fucking film. Like, we got to make that film. So there's so many stories to tell. Everybody's just afraid of it because nobody's done it right yet.
Yeah.
Every D&D movie up to this point, every single D&D property has been a fucking shit heap of awfulness. And if you could just get one good D&D movie, I swear to God, everybody's going to be like, I'm so fucking sick of Marvel, it's going to D&D. That's what's going to happen. I'm saying
you think that franchises like Lord of the Rings and and Game of Thrones would have paved the way a little bit as far as giving people an appetite.
They act like it's a fucking fluke. It's like, no, one good story well told.
Yeah,
it's going to do well. And like, this is a genre that people love. I don't know if you know this, but like they've been talking about the metrics for Game of Thrones. I always go, Lord of the Rings and Game of Thrones. This is just like, geeky, like middle-aged dudes like are into it. It's not.
No.
It's women.
It transcends. Yeah.
Love Game of Thrones. It's like, dude, there's a huge market out there. It's not just us dorks. It's like there's people that like this.
Lord of the Rings too. Same thing. A lot of women were really into it.
Ladies, let's do this. Be like fantasy. Come on. Woo, woo.
let's talk a little bit about story development, because I know that's something that you're working a lot on now. I'm curious on your side, character versus plot. Which one do you usually start with? Do you start to develop characters first and then figure out the story, or you kind of have a storyline in your head, but just empty jar that you eventually developed afterwards?
It depends. Like the stuff that I come up with, it's mostly dudes in this chat. I hope not.
It's usually a mix.
I mean, what I usually, oh my God, my Pickles is my dog and he's freaking out right now. Hold on. Just give me one second.
No problem.
Yeah.
Earlier, it sounded like he made some sort of it almost sounded like his dog was having a Carl moment. Like it sounded like Carl from Up, because he had like that little talking collar or whatever.
Yeah.
I heard his dog in the background, but it didn't sound like a dog. It sounded like someone going, "Hey, hey, hey!" And he's like, "Oh, that's my dog." I'm like, "Really?" Amazing.
Somehow it seems that you keep on touching your eyes, which I didn't notice. It's Van Animator that keeps on reminding you.
If your eye was a throbbing mess, you'd touch it too. So thanks a lot, Mom, aka Scott. I'll try my very best. Unbelievable. Tabitha, I'm not a dude.
Thank you, Tabitha. And Tabitha likes fantasy.
That's there you go. There she's the winning side of that demographic. I like it.
No, I just mentioned that because I think people have preconceived notions about that genre and who likes it, and I think it's stupid. But okay, so character plot. It depends. So I'm working on a property right now that is 2 books, 15-minute animated short, and I'm working with a creator on it. We're co-directing it. And what's great about the person that I'm partnering, I'm not going to talk details about it, but the person I'm partnering with is not, doesn't come from animation. He's actually a rock star. Anyway, he partnered with a New York Times bestselling author, and they wrote these books. And what's great about him is that he understands that though he created a very cool, compelling world, the characters in it he's never fully satisfied with it. So as we've started this development process with the writer, and this is very irritating for writers. Like, writers just want to be launched, go write the thing, give you the thing, get paid, get the notes, and then get paid for the rewrite. And we're not doing that. We're like, no, we're actually doing character development here. We are going to talk about these characters ad nauseum. We're going to find out what's at the core of the characters, like we do at Pixar. We're going to talk about what motivates them. We're going to make sure, like, for example, like the film, like the story do you guys know what the Bechdel test is? It didn't pass the Bechdel test. You know what the Bechdel test is?
I don't know what that is.
The Bechdel test is very simple. So to find out if your story is fucking sexist or not. Like, 1, does it have a female character? 2, does that female character talk? 3, does that female character talk about somebody other than the main character that is male? 4, are there 2 female characters in the scene? 5, do the 2 female characters in the scene talk about anything else other than a male character? Like, it just goes down the list, and you look at so many films that we made up to this point, and like,
oh man, they all fail at that.
Fucking arm candy, and like this story has this great character. What could be a great character is going to be a great character in it, and she's like this sexy love interest. I'm like, we're absolutely not doing that. I mean, this character, she needs to have her own fucking story, completely separate of our main character. And when they meet, she wants nothing to fucking do with this guy. And if we do this right, she's going to end up having her own story and go off on her own thing. And we'll have because it's planned as a trilogy, but we also want to take her and send her off on her way. So it's like, just like trying. So you start with character. You make sure that your characters are believable. They have their own motivations and drives. That that the things that they're doing and acting aren't flat. You know, when you read something, it's like, oh god, it's so fucking generic and flat. It's usually because it's not specific and nobody's really thought about that character and who they are. I mean, I'm asking our writer right now. We put this huge sheet together, this profile, and we have to fill everything out. I mean, we're talking from things that are physical, like height, race, sexual preference, to what are their, to character worksheets, like what are their biggest fears, what's their biggest accomplishment, how do they feel about their family. And we, a lot of times writers look at this thinking, oh my god, this is such a fucking trudge. But as you start getting through it and you really start getting specific about it, and then your themes start to come out of it, you start going, okay, but how does that play into the person's theme? Because our main character, this world kind of deals with fear. And it's like, how is this main character confronting the fear, and how do we build that character to make him interesting in a way that's not just like, oh, I'm just afraid of stuff, So me, I always start with character. Plot, I don't fucking care about. Plot's going to come out of character, so let's work on, like, yes, have the world, but plot is, in the order of importance, like 10. Because it should just be able to change based off of what your characters are doing. So, yeah,
that's super interesting. That's very interesting, because my assumption is that most people will think that it's the other way around. You have a story, and then you put characters that are basically serving the purpose of having this story evolved. But that's super interesting.
There are different approaches to it. I think that when you look at most films, I think that's where most films start. They start with plot, and that's why most films suck. To get a film like Blue Ruin or something, or I like this director. Oh god, I forgot his name. The guy that did Blue Ruin and Green Room, Malcolm. I forget what his name is. Anyways, it's all about character, and these are really, really great small films. You should check them out.
Yeah, it's funny because all movies have plots, but the good ones really aren't about the plot at all. Plot is just it's just the path the characters kind of take. But it's characters are always at the center of that. Like, that's why people want to watch a movie, because they're interested in the characters. Usually. Yeah,
that's usually what you remember as well. The characters more than the story itself.
Totally.
Always. When somebody tells you the story of Star Wars, do they tell you oh, there's this kid and he's on this planet and he really wants to get off the planet and not be a farmer? No, they talk about oh my god, there's Luke, and he's, his father's the worst guy in the universe, and he's killing everybody, but he's got this force, and it's that stuff is more character to me. The way he gets, we actually use Luke as a comp for this character, because it's the way Luke gets drawn into the story, the way he, I just need to go to Tashi Station to get some power converters. He's such a whiny character in the beginning, and though he wants to get out into the world and he hates being a farmer, it's not until his aunt and uncle are killed that he is forced into this bigger conflict, and the lust for his sister, of course.
Yeah, reluctantly. There's that reluctant hero thing going on, right?
Yeah.
It's always
We're often trying to keep a little bit of time for a question from chat, but before we do, I definitely want to have your views on where the industry is going, both in terms of production, distribution, because it is changing very fast. It changed a lot in the past 10 years, and I'm only assuming it's going to change even more in the next 10 years. So production, distribution, where do you see us being in 10 years from today?
It's a good question, because Hollywood's in a free fall right now. Netflix has disrupted everything. Furthermore, coronavirus, COVID, has come in and cemented streaming as the main revenue that people are making right now. It's not every deal that actors made before a year ago was all based off of box office. This is why Scarlett Johansson's so pissed about her deal with Black Widow is because, some people look at, oh, she just wants more money. It's like, no, she is fighting for her rights as an artist because her income, rightly so, because the way that people go to see her films, her income is based off of box office sales.
Yep.
Disney and Marvel did is they took her income away from her because Netflix, Disney Plus, all those guys, they hide their revenue. They don't show what's going on behind the scenes. And that's all so that they can keep money. I'm sorry,
Absolutely.
Disney, you guys, whatever. But they hide all their metrics and all their numbers because they don't have to pay the artist. As part of it.
Yeah, they don't want to have that awkward conversation about like, okay, so this movie didn't do very well, so they're not going to pay the artist, but meanwhile they're still making billions of dollars. Like it's like that's an awkward conversation to have, right?
Yep.
So
and it's hard because it's not like this. A lot of times it's not like this movie made this because it's a subscription service, but you can easily see how long somebody sat to watch a movie, how many people clicked on it, and you can make a metric based off of that.
Of course.
None of them are willing to share it.
Yeah.
And so I think she's very right in fighting for her rights to say, look, I need to know how much of the portion of your subscription for those months came from Black Widow, and I want my piece of that. That's right. That's right.
Yeah. Yeah. And do you see this? How do you see this trend evolved and actually impact how production are going to be both finance and the production side of it? Because with what everyone discovered with COVID, there was already a trend with remote work, but this is now more than a trend. It's going to become the norm that the majority of the people are going to expect at least some of the time to be able to work remotely, and all the studio that will not provide this privilege are going to be, penalized for not doing it.
Yeah, I think places like Pixar and Disney are going to get away with it because so much of it is about the experience in the screening room. So much of it's about that experience of having everybody together in there. We've been doing, we've been working on the short at Agora, and we've had a great experience doing it, but this is a small team. I think it works really well for a small team. When you have a team of, like we were doing Doug Days, I was working on that. It's the last thing I did before I left Pixar. And, we had 40 people in a Zoom meeting. I just checked out, and if you have a big crew, I think you're better off getting people together. Yeah. But as far as the way, I think it's really unclear on how it's going to affect the industry, because the way that our work is being monetized is very hidden right now, like I was saying before. And so you look at, like, Netflix has greenlit 1,000 projects, and lucky for people like us, there's not 1,000 studios to do the work. So that really provides a lot of work for us in our industry. So I think there'll be more work for us. I think there'll be other ways of doing distribution. I think I think like $15 million, $25 million films are maybe going to become more common. Netflix's price of entry is about 40 million. Like that's where they want to kind of keep their newbies. And then like the Glen Kings and stuff like that, they go up to like 75 and higher. But the age of $150 million film budgets, nobody has to do that anymore. It's just really inefficient. Like, dude, I can't even tell you how much money they spent on The Good Dino. I mean, you would fucking cry.
How much money they spent on what?
The Good Dinosaur.
Oh,
you literally could have made 6 films for the amount.
Wow, really?
Wow. And it wasn't bad, but it's definitely not one of Pixar's classic movie.
Yeah, sure. I don't want to speak negatively about it, and certainly not about Pete Sohn, who's a fucking amazing artist and human being. But yeah, I think we're in for a change. I think it's good because I think there are going to be opportunities for smaller studios to do work, and then I think the big studios are going to still do what they do, but places like us, we're going to be able to do stuff that we weren't able to do before because, look, Sex, Death, and Robot shows, whatever you think about it, there is an appetite for that type of stuff. There's more of an appetite for anime now than there is for American animation. And kids, so
a lot of the sort of the niche and sort of fringe types of whatever subject matters are now actually getting like some, and it's not just for good for the studios, it's also good for the audiences. Audiences that have been really craving these more fringe like things now suddenly are being made. Like you take a look at like a show like the like Invincible, right? Like this show, it's like based on a Robert Kirkman comic, and I got I moved my bookcase isn't in here anymore, but it's like a great story. But I don't think that would have been made years ago. I just don't think, and not to that level of quality, at least, that's for sure. And so like now it's like these fans on all these little corners of the world that have these great books and good comic books that they've always dreamt of being an actual show or a movie. That could happen now. It's like actually happening, which is great.
Well, and furthermore, I mean, the stuff that I'm trying to do with the studio, I'm trying to get off the ground with my partner right now. We're looking at, it's really weird coming from animation. We're looking at performance capture and Unreal Engine, like performance capture for the front end, actually being able to reshoot live in editorial, and doing Unreal Engine in the back end. A lot of stuff's going in that direction right now. The Mandalorian, I know they sell like, we did it 100% like that. Like they didn't. It's like there was a lot of like traditional CG work to get that thing done, but it is going in that direction. Supposedly Unreal 5 is really a tool that's going to kind of change how we're. It's not just for games. It's like they're trying to take out Maya basically.
I
just got to start jamming.
Good luck.
If you're able to get your hand on a good graphic card, which is not easy these days.
Dude, a 3090. One of the guys I'm working with, he just got 3 3090s. I was like, how the fuck did you do that? That's insane.
And he's just keeping them?
For sure. Just taunting everybody with them.
Bragging rights?
Frying eggs on top of them.
All right, let's maybe, Brett, what do you think? Should we go with
sure.
We got from the chat?
Yeah, we got a bunch piling up there. I'll look for some cues.
Actually, as we leave a little bit of time for people to send some of their question, I have an interesting one that we were asked yesterday, and I'd be very interested to have your perspective, because every Tuesday evening we do just 1 hour of Q&A session, and basically people ask, whatever, hit us with any question. And there was one that was very interesting. And I was, sorry?
5'11".
How did he know?
Damn it.
Sorry.
That's much higher than I expected.
Shots fired. Shots have been fired. Dave,
there we go.
You want to end this conversation.
Brent,
really cool.
Brent, it's close to my bedtime, so this is when I'm
He gets a little twitchy around this time. You have to forgive Dave. He gets a little, watch out. It's a little catty. He'll scratch your eyes out.
So, Dave Mullins, what advice would you have for an animator that is, quite happy with his shot? He shows it to is following the direction from the director, shows it to his lead. His lead is asking him, nah, do this instead, and he reluctantly do it. Go in dailies, and the director basically said, no, this is not at all what I wanted, and what he described that he wanted is exactly what the animator had in the first place, assuming that the lead is, not raising his voice to say, oh, by the way, it was my call. How should one react in this reaction? What would be the proper way to deal with this situation?
Wait. But if you're going to answer this, I want to hear the inner dialogue first. It's very important, because that's entertaining for us all.
I give you all inner dialogue. If it's me, I would have just been, that's what I had. Here's the clip. I got that's exactly what I had before I probably wouldn't call the person out. I try to be a little more smooth than that, unless they're a total dick, and then just fucking railroad them. They're going to make your life miserable either way. So just get on the good graces with the director. No, I would, if I had a shot and I had the directing animator ask me to change it and do something the director didn't, that sucks. I mean, first you need to probably talk to somebody more senior there and let them know what's going on. Say this person's an asshat. That's just the worst thing you could do. But I would, so practically I would have the shot ready to go. And if they say, no, I want this thing, you go, oh, I had that version before. Let me go ahead and show this to you. And they're eventually going to say, why didn't you show this? And then that's when you don't say anything and you just turn to the supervisor.
This is the part where you speak up.
Yeah. Look, if any of you guys are supervising and you make a comment or a change to a shot that a director does not like, you better fucking own up to it. You better interrupt the person to own up to it and say, you know what, this person had this before. That's my fault. I'm sorry. Always own up to that. Don't own up to like if something like somebody did something cool, like I suggested that. You don't do that either. But whenever there's a mistake and the director doesn't like it, it's your suggestion, you own it, or you're a piece of shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
And shouldn't be supervising. Get the fuck out. That's cool.
Words of wisdom.
Yeah, don't be. We often say don't be a dick, but I think we should upgrade that to don't be a piece of shit. I like that. And then on the back it could say or a dick. Don't be either one of those things. Okay, I got a question here. So this is a bit specific with regards to because obviously people picked up on it was pitched a number of times. Yeah. Approximately how many times do you think you pitched this thing before it actually got greenlit?
Yeah, Lou was the least. Like I pitched the Beavers thing like 7 times. Lou, I pitched twice.
Okay.
I had the initial pitch. I made the changes that John kind of asked for, and then on the second pitch, and here's the thing that I did that really did it was my wife Lisa is a stop motion animator, and I had her actually build the maquette of Lou. So she actually built with armature where you can move the eyes and the mouth and everything. So what happened was on the second pitch, the one that I got greenlit on, I put the maquette of Lou, like life-size maquette with armature in it. I put a white sheet over it. I brought John and Pete and everybody in, and I could see like right away they went like this and like looked over the thing. I'm like, your attention over here, please. And then I walked through like all the art that I did.
I love it.
All the changes, like, and then I pitched the whole film through the boards. The whole time they're like looking here, but they're like their eyes are still over on the head. I'm like, oh, I fucking got you. Like, I got you. And so after the pitch, I go, and I'd like to show you. Woof! And I pulled off the thing, and they went, ah! And they had the Aeron chairs, and they like scooched over to and like scooched across, literally in their chairs. I'm like, you can move the eyes. Like, look, you can make them angry if you just turn the baseballs around. Ah! And then like you start playing with it. So twice is the answer.
I think it's funny. From that day forward, you were known as the legend who got them to scooch. You know, Dave actually got John to scooch. It actually happened. I swear to God.
Say what you want, but I got John Lasseter to scooch.
Yes, that's right. That's right. Claim to fame. Nice job.
It would be my rosebud. Scooch.
Okay, I got another one.
Okay.
All right. What advice would you give to women who would like to direct a big budget film or show one day?
I don't want to give any advice to women because they are perfect the way they are.
Well played.
No, that's stupid. Well, it's a good question. I mean, it's probably the same advice I'd give to anyone. You know, what's good is there is a swing happening in our industry right now, which is trying to correct a lot of wrongs that have happened for a long time. There's been a lot of bad behavior. There's been a lot of very myopic casting. And I think it's a great time for women and minorities. They're being invited into circles that they weren't before. And, you know, I think that the pendulum swinging that way is such a good thing. So I think that, I feel like that can provide some opportunity. I'm not saying it provides everybody opportunity. But what I would say, I mean, to direct a big budget film, I mean, are you saying you want to start by directing a big budget film? I don't know of anybody that really pulls that off. I would say if you want to eventually do what I'm doing, which is start small with show you can do it, you can run crews and you have responsibilities, you have story chops, make a short film, show what you can do there, and then get interest based off of that. And so, like, for a while after Lou, I was like interviewing at like I still am, but like, DreamWorks to direct, and Illumination, and all these big companies, they're never going to hire me right out of the bat, because all I've done is a short. They want people that have directed features because there's a lot of money riding on the line. So what my advice would be is to build your way up to that. And every time that you create a calling card for yourself, like Lou is a calling card for me. I'm forever known for that. I knew that when I was trying to make it, that I just had to get it made, because if it's made, it's forever my calling card, my first calling card. So I would say just start small. And I mean, always be writing, write your scripts, pitch your scripts, do all that, but make something that is really amazing, and start small, because even doing the small stuff for most of us is fucking brutally hard. So I would say it's like you're building a house, and you have to start with you can't start with the roof. You have to start with the foundation. And I would say, get your chops up, show you know what you're doing. Maybe you'll get lucky and you'll be able to do it. But if you go into a big budget film and you've never done that before, it will be the most stressful time of your entire life, I guarantee you. So do yourself a favor and just build up to that point. Does that make sense or help?
Yeah, like stepping stones, right? Like it's difficult. It's a big question, right? It's like how do you answer that? Because I mean, it's how can anyone just jump in and start directing a big budget film or show? It's like, first you got to be in the industry. Second, you got to start making right alliances and the right relationships. Third, you need to be, like you said, start building some calling cards, starting out with smaller ones, and then eventually, hopefully, you get to the point where you're gonna get a shot at the big show. But all
the work that I'm doing right now, which is I'm developing films and series and stuff like that. If I hadn't worked my way up to this, I would be having a heart attack, because there's so much to know. Yeah. And there's some people that do step into those roles. I mean, there's, look, we all get the Instagram fucking stories of the person. I just got my show greenlit at fucking Netflix. And how many of those shows are your favorite shows? So are you trying to make a show, or are you trying to make the best fucking show you possibly can that's going to stick with people? And for me, it's a process of building up to that. So I mean, I'm sorry, this is the last thing I said, but the most stressed I've ever been was directing that short for the first time. I thought every day I was going to have a fucking heart attack.
Well, you had suddenly you're in a position where you're supposed to have all the answers, right? Like all of them.
Yeah, I would say it really depends if this question is coming from someone that is already directing and wondering, can I get to this next level, or someone that is fantasizing about directing big budget film? Because I know actually a few directors that tried it and like, this is not at all what I expected. This is not what I want to do. I'm actually realized that I really like writing, or I really like editing, or I really like or animation, or whatever it is, but being the conductor of telling everyone what to do, but not really do anything myself. And this can be frustrating as well, because it kind of feels that you have like Bugs Club at times, and you're like, you're more you're a communicator more than anything. You need to spread your ideas in everyone's mind to kind of, control the masses. And it's not, so just make sure that your motivation are right, that you're someone that really likes the medium of film or cinema to tell a story, and you would like to do it at scale, because that's kind of the essence of what it is, and to deal with a lot of people and thousands of questions on a daily basis, and have the energy to grind forward and not be miserable as you do it.
It's like less. Oh, go ahead, Dave.
No, I was just going to say, the other thing you should definitely do as you're on that path and that journey, surround yourself with people that will be honest with you and then that you trust. Surround yourself not with friends that are going to glad hand you. Surround yourself with your friends that will challenge you and help you make your film better. There's so many people that will try and help you in different ways, and they'll really sideline you. Just make sure that the people that you're coming up with, I'm at a point in my career where the people I'm working with is more important than the project itself, to be honest. Like, I want to work with the right people, because all these projects are hard. And if you're working with the wrong people, it's fucking miserable.
Oh yeah.
It's funny. It kind of reminds me of something that we had a couple of weeks ago. When you start, you think, "Oh, I really want to work at that studio or that studio." Then you grow eventually, and you're more like, "No, I want to work on this kind of project and this kind of project." And eventually, it gets to, "Well, I want to work with this kind of people.
Yeah.
This is the kind of people I want to
I
get
just want to
surrounded
work with
with."
Sarah again. She's such a good editor. God damn it. You know?
Yeah. Makes
But
a lot
it's
of sense.
true.
Okay.
Just to really quickly touch on too, because there's the other dimension to this question, of course, is the elephant in the room being that I think the perception obviously is, and you touched on this a bit, Dave, is that historically this has been a bit of an inaccessible job for specifically women, and it's nice to see that. Finally, there's been a little bit of swinging in the other direction to allow for some correction in that particular area. So there's never been a better time than to kind of try to step up to bat and start laying down that foundation, because maybe there's light at the end of the tunnel now. Thankfully, it would really feel pretty shitty because I mean no matter what way you look at it, take gender out of the equation, it's a long road. And I think a long road is a lot more difficult to walk when you don't see literally anybody chances of success at the end.
Catherine Bigelow and who else? Like,
exactly. For real. Like the list is small.
And it's been geared against, it's been geared towards white men,
Yeah. And I think it could be very easily argued that although she is quite clearly a very, very capable filmmaker, she might. The question is, would she have ever even had that shot unless she was actually, you know what I mean? Like and I'm not saying, like, I know that's a very charged thing to say. I think that for sure, she's clearly she didn't make those movies. James didn't make those movies. She did, and they're amazing. But the question is, she was in a position that a lot of other people might not have had to be able to try to jump into that very difficult, very, very not super tolerant position of being able to like make a movie, So it's
this is not to say that there aren't great female directors out there.
No,
of course there are,
for sure.
It's just that it's been geared. I mean, we all know this has just been geared against women and people of color for a long time now, and thankfully that's changing.
We'll definitely need to bring a woman director to.
Yeah, it'd be great.
Because right now we're basically just three straight white dude trying to answer this question. And
true.
However we approach it, it'll be a disservice to this question. So, but that's definitely one that we should keep for.
If you can get Brenda to speak, that would be fucking awesome. She's awesome. I love her.
Let's do it. We'll hunt her down and to come to this dream.
Kristen Lester directed Pearl. I worked with her. She was my director, and I'm really close with her. She's going to be she's developing a film now at Pixar. She's really awesome. I love her.
Yeah, it would be good to get the perspective, like see like how they feel from their perspective. Is the pendulum swinging, or is that just a perception that maybe some of us have, right? I think it would be key because I mean the people are going to feel the most are the people in that seat, right? Yeah, good idea. We should definitely try. We've been wanting to have to touch more a little bit on just trying to mix up the perspectives a little bit with regards to just filmmaking and like what is it like being a woman in the game industry? What is it like to be someone in a marginalized community in the film industry? Like, I think we should start doing a lot more of that. I think we have probably we're actually already. We got 5 minutes left. Technically, I was going to ask one more question here that Van Animator put, and then I was going to try to squeeze one in from our backlog.
I'm good to go. So whatever you guys want.
Okay. So this question is from Van Animator, who also happens to be our community manager. Surprise, surprise. There he is. He's always offering good questions. Very personal question here. I'm releasing a children's book soon because I'm hungry to start producing my own stories, and it's already picked up attention from a producer to turn it into a series. That's fun. An animation studio wanted to invest a small amount of specifically $5,000 to develop a story. That's not a ton of money to do that, but hold on. I have to. Oh man, I hate it when this happens. I can never see it.
Just read it from the chat.
Yeah, I'm going to do that. The project would have been tied to them. I didn't think they were capable of achieving the visual style of the project, so declining the offer wasn't right in doing this. 5K. So they wanted to own your property for $5,000.
Yeah, it seems a little.
This is a great thing. But I get why it's nerve-wracking because you're like, oh my God, this could put me on the map, right?
Yeah.
But you don't want to get put on the map by getting taken advantage of.
Yeah.
The project would have been tied to them. When you say tied to them, what do you mean? That they would just option it? I mean, I need sort of more information. Like, They wanted to develop it for further funding. Okay, that's fine. I'm doing that same thing right now. Were they saying they would own it? Or
maybe they have first right of refusal or something like that, maybe?
Yeah, because like any development deal, like I'm in a development deal for that Beaver short that I was talking about is actually, I'm developing that into a series.
Oh, that's
and fun. I've tied myself to the operating room for 18 months. They have total rights to shop it around. We're partnered up. There's no money involved. There's not even $5,000 involved right now. There's no money involved, but we're trying to sell it together as a team.
Yeah.
So I think the overall question is, if you have a gut feeling that you don't think it's the right partner to go into business and develop the story, should you still do it because you might miss the opportunity of having at least a studio that is interested into what you're doing?
Yeah, I mean, there is this thing about momentum. So, a lot of times people will use, well, I got an offer from this. Currently Studio X is interested in developing this and animating this and going out for funding. And, I'm just looking around to make sure that I've got the best offer. That's one way of doing that. If they were going to be tied to the people that were going to animate it and you didn't have confidence that they'd be able to animate it, yeah, it's probably good that you walked away. Just like David's saying, like, trust your gut.
$5,000 doesn't seem like a lot of money for them to be able to reserve any kind of right, to be honest. It's like, it's kind of it's silly.
Yeah.
But, let's put it this way. If that studio was willing to put money up and they were interested, then there's a good chance that somebody else will be as well. And hopefully we'll take it a little bit more seriously and give you a better offer. Because I mean, well, what's the rush, right? If you got a good idea and you're sitting on it, you're developing it, it's just going to keep getting better theoretically. So.
Well, there's a thing where you get your idea out there and people know about it, and then it's hot, and then after a while it's like, oh, we already heard about that, and they don't even want to look at it anymore. So there's a timing thing. I get it. Like that's a much longer conversation about that type of timing, but you probably did if your gut said no, then I think you probably did the right thing. Trust your gut.
Next question. This question was sent to us beforehand, and it's it's from Let's Animate Raul. What is your motivation for staying creative? Your specific trick? What do you do?
My mortgage.
That'll do it.
Motivation for staying creative. You mean how do I stay creative? Like what?
He's unfortunately not there to clarify
he's not in chat,
the question. Let's just say, I feel myself that being creative takes a lot of energy. It takes a lot of brain power, and sometimes you might be just like, you know what, I'm just going to take a simple job that is well paid, but I'm going to, basically being told of what doing. But so what is the drive to push you to develop those projects, to develop those characters, those story, and not for a couple of weeks, for years, even if none of those projects is greenlit yet?
Well, no one's going to like this answer because it's not the answer that I would want to hear, but I literally feel worse not doing it than doing it. I mean, it's as simple as that. Like, I enjoy the pain of the creative process. So, I mean, I'm going broke right now trying to start my own company. It's insane. Like, don't look up to me. I'm not saying anybody is, but don't, because I'm going broke trying to.
You need a glass of scotch now, as you are.
It's great. No, I mean, for me, it was just an issue of. It's just an issue that I'm driven to do it, and it's just in my DNA, and I've always been driven to do it, and it sucks because I think there's something to following your gut, following the thing that you enjoy. Like when I was trying to write for Pixar, I'm going to write this script, I'm going to write this thing because I think Pixar is going to enjoy it. It's going to be a Pixar film. I was miserable. When I started writing about the stuff I like, D&D and sci-fi and stuff that I knew that Pixar would never make, then I started becoming really happy because I was basically focusing on my own creative needs, the things that I wanted to do and I wanted to see. I'd say, all you need for motivation is just do the stuff that you like. And if you don't know what you like yet, watch a fucking shitload of movies, look at your own life. Like maybe you play soccer and like you're really passionate about that. Make a film about soccer. You know, you like soccer. Just make the things you like. That's it. It's as simple as that.
Or go try to work for a company that work on things that you know you're going to like, so you can
Yeah,
hopefully
or
be
that, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought it was like your own personal projects, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and don't stay at a company if you feel like it's not, you know, if you're not creatively inspired by the work that you're doing, then go somewhere that you will be. Because life is too short to sit there like grinding and trying to be creative in a non-creative environment that you're not excited by. That's crazy.
But I think that if you're lacking motivation, it's a great sign that you're maybe not doing what you should be doing, because when you follow your natural passion, it's not always going to be fun. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be a walk in the park. It can be brutal and difficult, but you're naturally remain motivated. Being motivated, it's not something that you will have to force yourself to be. It's going to be for free. Motivation is provided for free if you follow your passion. Doesn't mean that it's going to be fun and easy. That's not part of the deal.
No. Do you want to do another one?
Yeah, we got one last one, and then we'll cut you loose there, Dave.
Okay.
Let's see, dropping it right here.
So I think I was
don't
supposed
say
to
that. I won't let you go.
I talk too much.
No. It would be pretty boring if we brought people on the show that didn't like to talk. It would be pretty awkward. Let me tell you that right now. You make it easy.
How should one present themselves when they are new to the industry?
This a perfect question for you.
Depends.
Well, it didn't turn out too bad for you, even if you're maybe not the textbook example of how we might advise some to present themselves when they're starting.
You know, it could have, you know, maybe if I was more developed as a person, you know, things would have been easier for me. Things were very hard for me for a long time. So, you know, I think my philosophy now is like treat people with respect. If you want respect, treat people with respect. If you want friends, be a friend. If you want to be creative, be creative. Like, you know, always put your best foot forward. Try to be curious. Be honest. Honesty is your best friend, because if you're honest and there's something that doesn't work when you're presenting yourself in the industry, that job probably wasn't right for you. You know, don't try and force yourself. If you're a round peg, don't try and force yourself into a square hole. So I think, being kind, being honest.
And a healthy dose of conviction is not so bad. I mean, clearly that worked out well for you, right? I mean, you kind of stuck to your guns, and it seems like as you matured in the industry, you also learned the opposite side of that. The most offensive air quotes ever right there. I think that you know, obviously it sounds like you said, like you learn to play better with the people in the sandbox, right? Like the so you've struck by the sounds of it, a nice, interesting balance between conviction and collaboration, which I think any leader creatively needs to be able to do, because if there's no conviction, then things don't get done, and there's no force pushing in a direction and giving a good vision for everyone to sort of jump on board and follow. But of course, at the same time, for people to enjoy working with you, you do need to be malleable in some ways, you know. So I'm sure it's a delicate balance, but conviction is not a bad thing as long as you can back it up.
You know, you have to know what you want and know what you're after, but there's also a lot of searching for it. So be open to your team, be open to people around you, and good ideas can come from anywhere. They usually don't just come from anywhere. They come from like your trusted confidants, but you know, just be open.
Yeah.
You'll be surprised by people. People will pleasantly surprise you with what they can bring to the table if you listen to them.
Oh yeah, that's so true. It's crazy, and it's sad to see so many people in leadership positions that are like allergic to the idea, you know.
Yeah. Well, you know what that is. Every time you see like a leader that's not willing to listen or hear out ideas, it's just insecurity. I mean, there's so many leaders out there who are super insecure, and it takes years to get comfortable in your skin. So for a while, I had to just fake it, like being, you know, I'm a fairly empathetic person. But there's just times where I just say this one thing about supervising. Like I was co-supervising with somebody, and they're like, "Jesus Christ, Dave, you tell people good job like 8,000 times a day." I'm like, yeah, I probably say it 30 or 40 times a day, but that person on our 150 person crew hasn't heard a compliment in 2 weeks, and they're fucking working their ass off. So yeah, fucking appreciate people's work. Don't like go soft on them if the stuff's not working, but like it's as important to say this is working in a shot and this is great. It's more important to say that than what's not working. Like people, like bad supervisors, they go down the list of all the shit that's wrong, because that's all they can see is the shit that's wrong. The stuff that really works, you got to highlight that so everybody can see, like, oh man, look what this person's doing here on this acting choice, or this, oh, look at this really interesting scramble that's going, whatever it is, like, you have to like call that stuff out. So it's just, you have to be good to people. That's the thing.
Don't be a piece of shit or a dick.
Yeah, except for the shitheads. Then you let them hang themselves with the rope that they.
We've kind of turned a little bit around this question, but I'm tempted to finish by asking you a question that we asked to Andrew Gordon when he was when we came to his stream, which was, what would today Dave Mullins tell junior Dave Mullins when he started? What is the one piece of advice that you could provide him, if it was only one, that might help him in the beginning of his career?
I usually have a quick answer to this, because I've been asked this before.
That's perfect that you don't remember. That's even better.
I don't. What would I tell myself? I did so many things wrong, so it's hard to pick one thing. I would just say, I'd probably just say to myself, just spend more time listening and less time talking. I would give myself that advice right now.
Brent, is it me, or I think that it's exactly what Andrew told us as well?
It was. Well, he said that, but he also said,
and to take it, relax,
chill
a little bit.
Yeah, you're not going to get fired. You know what I mean? Like, it's going to be okay. And if you do, it'll be okay still. Like, when he started at Pixar, he said he was like on high alert all the time. Like, don't fuck it up, don't fuck it up, don't fuck it up. And he kind of was a bit of an overachiever and drove himself a little bit into the ground because of that. So,
yeah. But
it's hard not to do that when you're starting out, because you're trying to prove
not
only to everybody else, but to yourself that you can do it. And if you're really passionate about it, try and enjoy it. That's a really
Adrian B in chat, he's got a good memory because
it's true.
Yeah, it was quite specifically the answer, because there was a story about how a bunch of the artists or a bunch of the animators were going on a ski trip, and he's like, no, I can't, man, I got to catch up on stuff, and I'm going to be spending the weekend working or whatever. And his advice was like, go on the ski trip.
Andrew's a close friend of mine. I'm just gonna say Andrew never didn't go on the ski trip, so I call bullshit.
Wow. Let's get him back on the show. Well, good.
Let
me bring him in. Just kidding.
No, Andrew knows how to have fun. I mean, he knows how to balance life work. He was always better at that than me.
It's true. I mean, let's say, like, he being the guy who's famous for building a fort in his own office that was part of the studio tour at one point. Clearly, that man knows how to have fun. But I think he was sort of, I guess, maybe in his mind, maybe the perception was he might have always known how to have fun, but maybe some of that was an outlet for stress, or like, because he maybe inside, because you don't know what's really going on in someone's mind, right? We get the external version of them. Yeah.
Is Andrew in here right now?
I'm going to bring him in.
Ladies and gentlemen, Andrew Gordon.
Andrew.
Yeah.
Hey, fuck you,
that would
Mullins.
be awesome. Yeah. Dave has something he wants to say to you. He called you, quote unquote, a bullshitter. I think. Do you have anything you want to say about that?
Andrew called me a bullshitter?
No. That's what you said. You're gonna call bullshit on it, but I'm just stirring the pot at this point. So I'm working up to like this boss fight that we're gonna have at some point when we bring him on the show with you. It'll be amazing.
Oh, I would love to do something with Andrew.
That'd be cool. Yeah. Well, I think it's a perfect time to wrap it up. We've stolen enough of your precious time. Thank you so much for sharing
guys.
your energy,
Yeah, that was great.
your stories, your insights, and some of that sort of raw open book style that you bring to the conversation. And honestly, it was a lot of fun. It was, I could tell the chat was enjoying it.
Good.
It was candid. It was all the things. It was great. So thank you very much for that.
Candid.
Yeah.
That's probably too much.
No, it's great. I love it. I can't get enough of it. So enjoy the rest of your evening, Dave.
Thanks, Brad.
David, of course, it's approaching your bedtime, so enjoy that. I will see you both around, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Cheers.
All right. See you guys. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, guys. It was great.
That was fun. That's funny that he says that he's always candid, because that was my experience when I was in that Agora roundtable. He's so great because he just says it like the way it is. It's like whatever's on his mind, he says it, and he's clearly a storyteller, because it's always the way he says it. It's clearly a story being told from the heart. It's not something that's been overly engineered. It's just a raw life story. And it's always nice to hear those, because sometimes things are just, there's too many filters on things. And I find it's a bit of a rare thing that you have someone who's has worked with some of these giants in the industry. I mean, he's a giant himself, as far as I'm concerned, having worked on those, being a pioneer in the animation industry the way he had been, and having a chance to be an animation director on a Pixar film, as well as directing a short. I mean, it's just crazy. So I'm excited to see where he's going to go, because it's nice to see that kind of energy being directed towards building his own thing. And I think that can only be a great thing, and we'll see how that goes. And we'll have to kind of follow him and maybe get him back on the show again to talk a little bit about how that's going down the road. Hopefully he'd be into that. Thanks for being here, chat. It's always a pleasure to have you in the room. Hopefully you feel like you're in the room. I try my best to make you feel like it. It's a little hard sometimes at the beginning when it's like kind of getting deep into the story. Still trying to get better at that sort of trying to break that wall down, so it feels just like as much that you're here as we are. That was the sort of the purpose of these conversations at the beginning, is to make it feel like you can all just hang out with these amazing people that David and I bring on the show. If you ever have suggestions of someone who you'd love to have us have on the show, then reach out and let us know. We can always reach out. I mean, I think we're getting to the point now where enough people know about Agora that like it wouldn't be a weird thing for us to tap certain people and they'd be like, oh yeah, I heard about you guys. That'd be kind of interesting. I'm not saying that we can get anybody on the show, but I think that we've proven ourselves now. We have a pretty good track record of having a lot of really amazing guests, being good sports and getting on the show and just, just talking life and business with us. That I think a lot of other people would love to have a little chance to do that too. It's like a fun little break. Why not nerd out with a bunch of people that enjoy talking about the same things? So yeah, I mean, you know where to find us. If you have suggestions, we'd be happy to chase down some people that you think would be inspiring, on any level, really. And I think it's important to note that we're not just interested in people that are just going to speak, have a very specific experience in animation. Yes, it's an animation related show. But I think it's fair to say that there's a lot of peripheral things that could be, that would make a lot of sense. And also, it's like, we don't even have to talk about animation. I mean, I think some of the best conversations we've had on this show, in my opinion, have been ones that are a lot more personal and talking a little bit about just like life on this little blue planet that we all seem to be sort of, this journey that we're all on, and their life experiences and how they can apply to maybe helping others that may be in similar situations. Corey Barlock from Santa Monica Studios. That would be a very interesting conversation. That man is a visionary, to say the least. He has good interviews too. I've seen a few of them. They're pretty good. You don't need to give them now. I think I'm going to forget them if you send them to me now. I think what you need to do is, use Instagram. Maybe we can actually get Scott. I don't know if Scott's still around. Scott, you still here? Usually he's lingering in the shadows. But if Scott's here, maybe we can send out a little Instagram just to kind of just a specific one that's about this. You can react to and send your suggestions to. Oh, look at that, man! Van Animator, always there taking the notes. So yeah, but I mean, it'd be nice to kind of put a blast out there for other people who might not have been here tonight to get a chance to have someone drop a name in a hat we can maybe try to chase it down. We have still a lot of a decent track or a decent roadmap of more guests coming in, but eventually we're going to get to the point where we're going to probably, we're going to be looking for suggestions for sure. So if you got something in mind, write it down and make sure that you send them to us when the time is right. As for conversations moving forward, we do have like what are the next things on the list. So obviously we have our Sunday night public reviews that are happening. It happens every 10:30 p.m. every Sunday at 10:30 p.m. Eastern Standard. You can always sign up for that. Try to get your stuff reviewed for free on our weekly live review session on Twitch. It's on my Twitch channel, which is my Twitch channel is over_animated. That's where we are doing those. We are going to be probably mixing it up a little bit soon and bringing other people into the same kind of format. So for now, we're still just kind of having fun with it and thank you, Scott. That is the form that you would have to fill out if you're interested in having your work reviewed. We have our Q&A conversations. David and I would do that every Tuesday evening. That's at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time every Tuesday, unless we say otherwise. But typically it's at 9. And then we have, I think, another conversation next week. Let me just check. I don't have it up here. And that one is next conversation on the list here is it is next week. It's the 14th, which is a Tuesday. And that is, no, that's Tuesday is Q&A. Sorry, I meant it's Wednesday, the 15th of September at 3 p.m. And that's with Kirby Atkins. He's he's now the head of development and director at Brazen Animation. So I don't actually know a ton about Kirby, but if you wanted to learn more about that particular conversation, you can always go over to head over to the live site and get the lowdown on that. But anybody we've had on the show has always been a very interesting person to come and hang out and listen to. So I'm sure that's going to be an amazing conversation too. So we'll see you all hopefully on the next one. Otherwise, have a wonderful evening and a wonderful rest of your week, and stay animated. Cheers.